Audio check. Checkity check check. Check check check. See, I need to unmute that so we'll actually hear it. Live stream is offline. No, it's not. I click the button. There it goes. Wait for it. Wait for it. See, I need to unmute that so we'll actually hear it. All right, you guys talk. Live stream is
All right, let us
Alrighty.
speak and let words issue forth into the ether.
Yep, talking.
Wait for it. See, I need to unmute that so we'll actually hear it. All right, you guys talk. Live stream is
All right, let us
Alrighty.
speak and let words issue forth into the ether.
Are you hearing me, guys? Okay now? I just found a button. It's got a mute button on this headset.
Yeah.
Not a button.
All right, you guys talk.
Yeah.
All right, let us speak and let words issue forth into the ether.
Are you hearing me, guys?
Yeah.
Okay
Yes,
now?
yes,
I
we're
just
hearing
found
you.
a button.
That was from the
It's got a
recording,
mute
Seth.
button
Oh.
on this headset.
That's funny.
Yes, we're hearing you. Stop it.
For the fourth time, we hear you.
Oops.
All right, so I can close those things now and give my poor little processor a break. Pull the
So
show
you
notes up.
finished Fill the Oceans yet, Mark? All of your
No,
stuff?
no, I'm at 97% of the upgrades. Yeah, it's. I think I have 60 million know-how right now, and still going too slow to finish the game at a reasonable amount of time.
I'm telling you, go back to go launch your know-how thing and click on use know-how.
Well, I'm telling you, I've
And
done
then-
that. I'm up to 60
you have?
million now.
Oh wow.
60 million know-how units. And yeah, things are going fast, but I think it's just one of those things that at a certain point, it's going to take days and days, and that's just the way it is. I'm at 97% Mountain Ew, and I can't go any higher. These are the times that try men's souls. I don't know why my color is so washed out, but I'm not going to worry about it. Nobody watches this crap anyway. Okay, let me do a reset here. Begin your local recording devices now.
We're all set.
Assuming you haven't already.
I have clicked my recording device.
Okay.
Hopefully it will work.
Making a marker and beginning the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the GeekRant, episode 294, North of the Border, recorded July 16th, 2017, and brought to you by Element OP Productions, elementop.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the only show on the internet where geeks rant. My name is Mark, sometimes called the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel. And joining me this week, all the way from the great frozen north of Canada, are, well, one of them anyway, are your stalwart co-hosts, Seth the Gooey Kid Anderson and Miles the Aussie Engineer Wakeham. Hello, gentlemen.
Hey, Mark, and welcome, Element OB Faithfulites. We're so glad you joined us again.
Hello. Hey.
Hey, have you had any Molson yet?
No, but just there's Molson stickers everywhere around here. Signed, umbrellas, everything.
So you're in Toronto, right? Toronto, as they call it.
Yes, I am. I am in Toronto and Ontario.
Right. And Seth, you'll be traveling north right after you hang up here, pretty much, right?
I actually have my alarm set pre 6 o'clock in the morning tomorrow to get up and begin my trek across a part of the United States. I'm planning to go to Pennsylvania for a week.
Ooh, nice.
So everybody else is traveling. I was like, I got to go somewhere too. I can't be left out.
Go meet some Amish people.
I don't know. I've not looked where Amish country is in relation to where I'm going. A friend of mine is a pastor of a church in Pennsylvania. And so I was just like, hey, I'm going to go see them for a week and say hey, and then come back. So.
Yeah, for reasons that really make no sense at all, summer is one of the busiest times at my job. It doesn't seem logical, but yet it is. And so I'm actually taking a whopping 3 days off this week, Thursday, Friday, and Monday of next week. So while you guys are traveling all over the continent, I'm considering maybe driving an hour and a half south to go to a petting zoo. That's pretty much the extent of my vacation.
Spend your tourist dollars locally. Why not?
Oh, and since Miles is in Canada, I don't know if I've done it on the show before, but I have to. Did you know that Canada was a name specifically invented for Canadians to spell? Canada.
Oh,
Very
boy.
good.
Yeah.
Very good.
I'll have to run that by my Canadian friend sometime. Of course, when
I just thought it was funny.
he has become a U.S. citizen, so anytime I call him Canadian, he says, "No, I'm American now." So I just I'm not going to put any pictures up or anything, but I finished the island that I had been working on for my wife that I've complained about on this show many times. So woodworking project accomplished. It looks beautiful from a distance. Just don't look too close. And people, I posted a couple pictures on Facebook, and people were like, yeah, that looks professional. Right. That's why I posted those pictures. We won't mention the angles that don't quite match up and the, eighth of an inch dip here and there. But yeah, other than that, the wood sure is pretty. So I have built a 24 by 48 by 36 inches tall island with 2 cabinet doors and shelving space inside. It was a fun project. Probably took me, I'm going to say 100 hours of actually active working time. Probably 50 of that was undoing work done and another 50. So Norm Abrams, I am not.
You could use your husband cred to get her to agree to buying you a laser cutter. This is the opportunity now.
See, the problem is she's all for that. She would say, just spend, infinity dollars. It's fine. I am the cheapskate. I can't make myself, pay for, $150 sander because it would make things easier. Now, I'm fine with what I got. I can put some more duct tape on this one. It'll be fine. My daughter, my oldest daughter, has been helping me with this off and on. Selfishly, she wants me to get to the next project. She wants me to build something for her. And I keep telling her I can't do that until I finish this for your mom. So I've been getting a lot of help. And at one point I told her, I just need you to understand that your father is about to do something stupid. I don't want you to be sitting around years from now talking with your friends about, yeah, this is the way you're supposed to do that because I saw my dad do that. No, your dad is about to be an idiot. But this is the tool I have. This is the job that needs to be done, and I'm going to do it. So just understand, I'm pretty much using a sledgehammer to swat a fly at this point.
Well, remember, if brute force doesn't work, you're simply not using enough. So that, when you're doing projects around the house, far too often men forget that most ancient rule.
Right. Yeah, I had an edging around the top that didn't line up right, mainly because the wood is as wavy as the ocean. And so I had to make that match. And so rather than use a router, which I have one, but I'm a little afraid of it, honestly, or, take it to a mill and have them use a pointer or whatever. No, I just whipped out the old belt sander and shaved about 3/8 of an inch off of a piece of wood. It was stupid, but it worked.
I don't know. It sounds good to me.
Grind. Actually, it was even worse than that. I'm giving myself too much credit. I didn't have the right belt for the belt sander, so I actually did it with a palm sander until I finally gave up and went and got the belt sander. Because Home Depot is 1.3 miles from my house. I just didn't want to put shoes on and go and do that. So instead, no, I was wearing shoes in the shop. No, don't. Safety police, don't go after me. That was just metaphorically speaking. I didn't want to go spend $3.95 on the right sanding belt. So instead, I spent an hour of my life with a palm sander. So stupid, but got the job done.
Well, that's cool.
Big done stamp.
Yeah. And now she's like, now for the next thing, since you did such a great job on that, I really should have messed it up, I guess, a little more.
No, because you're building, you're banking in that you're putting debits in the love bank. So,
yep.
There's a lot of the marriage, self-help marriage stuff that talk about that. You instead of taking credits out, using up the stuff in the relationship, you're putting it in there. So, later, whenever, I don't know, just good stuff. So I don't have much practical knowledge on the subject.
She's been on me for a while to make some of these floating shelves in the kitchen because floating shelves are all the rage on Pinterest these days. I've never built one. I don't know how to build one. but I didn't know how to make a butcher block countertop either. So, that's actually the only reason I took that on is because I didn't know how to do it. I don't want to do things I know how to do.
For floating shelves, you just need to make sure you're in a stud or something up top of the ceiling, and just make sure the wire's strong enough, right?
No, that's a hanging shelf. That's not a floating shelf. A floating shelf is where you can't see any of the supports. It looks like a piece of wood glued to the side of the wall.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
All right, moving on. Very quick review of Spider-Man Homecoming. Doesn't suck. It had a great potential to suck. It really did. Tom Holland, I think best Peter Parker, maybe not best Spider-Man, but best Peter Parker on film yet. Really enjoyable, if entirely predictable plot line. There was actually one plot point, one curve that caught me off guard. And for me, that's rare. I usually have the whole plot figured out within the first 10 minutes of the movie. And they actually threw me a curve that I didn't see coming. So props to Marvel on that one. But yeah, go see it. It's worth seeing.
Yeah, I was going to talk about Spider-Man, Mark. How dare you take my thunder? But no, I thought it was really good. I am super happy they did not do an origin story. That they just, hey, he's Spider-Man. I mean, obviously in the movie it comes out he hadn't been Spider-Man for very long, so part of the movie is learning how to be Spider-Man. But I thought it was really good. Of course it's Marvel, so there's always scenes after the movie. The second scene at the end of the credits is maybe the best Marvel scene ever. I didn't have that same response to it, but I will say Aunt May has the best line of the movie, and it's the last line of the movie. The absolute last words spoken in the movie are the best line of the movie. Yes, I will agree with that. But I just thought the one thing I didn't like is they said it was 8 years after the events in the first Avengers movie. So if it's 8 years after that, then it can't be set in current day. So.
Well, that would put it essentially concurrent with the Civil War timeline.
Well, no, because Civil War was set in current day when it came out last year, and last year was only like 4 or 5 years since the first Avengers movie. So,
yeah, and it is unquestionably an Avengers movie. It's not a Spider-Man movie. It's not a Marvel movie. It's an Avengers movie.
Well, and actually, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has morphed into the Robert Downey Jr. Cinematic Universe.
Yes.
He must have had some awesome contract with them that says you're not allowed to make a Marvel movie that I'm not in anymore ever. So one of the few flaws I have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe is Tony Stark is in fact God. And he's far too powerful from the version of Marvel that I remember. Not that Ant-Man's a weak superhero, but he shouldn't be able, or Iron Man, but he shouldn't be able to stand up to the Hulk or to Thor in a regular fight. But anyway, that's one small thing, is that just Iron Man is set up as too strong. And I don't like that, but that's a very minor nitpicking point. I did enjoy the movie.
Visually, the movie is good. Still, we're not ready for digital actors. There are a number of scenes where Spidey is flipping around, and there's no question that's a computer. That's not a human, and it's frustrating because in some cases, like the Hulk, for example, you look at the Hulk in the two Avengers movies, and it's hard to forget, even though he's a big green guy, and maybe that's it, because the uncanny valley isn't an issue when you're looking at a big green guy. Maybe it's easier to believe, but when you're looking at web-slinging Spider-Man, there were several moments where it completely took me out of the movie because it looked so amateurish. It was Tobey Maguire amateurish 20 years later.
And I think the second Spider-Man series, to me that was much better at the fake person. This is almost like that Matrix fan film, bad of them hopping across cars on the freeway. It was almost that level of bad. I agree with you. It was like I was back in time to 2008 or something. So, but yeah, that was a visual deduction.
Right. All right. enough about that. Miles, what you doing in Canada?
I just got out of the heat in Arizona. This is a norm where I come from. It's like no one wants to spend 3 or 4 months of their life in that sort of heat.
So is everybody you're meeting from Arizona?
No. Okay, see, it's a good point. I got to Toronto, and I'm thinking, last international airport I flew into was JFK, which was a zoo. I mean, billion people, took 4 hours to get through immigration and everything. And so I'm thinking, Canada? Who goes to Canada, right? I got to Pearson, Toronto Airport, hour and a half to get through that one. It was the same thing. They put you through the cattle call line. It went forever. It was incredible. I've never seen so many people in an airport. Well, I have JFK, but this was it's up there. It's the same deal. And then I realized why. It took me a while, but this is a very multicultural city. I mean, there's people from everywhere here. This is like the United Nations of residents. You look in every ethnicity, whatever that is represented. Everybody. You've got, and it's wonderful. If you want diversity, this is the place to come to. But they all come here. And I think the reason is, without wanting to be political, I don't think they want to go to the United States this year. There's a general kind of message like, we don't want you to visit us, that's been received loud and clear by the Europeans politically, and they're not wanting to come to the USA. So next best thing, we'll go to Canada. And so, of course, they're going to Canada, and this place has just been deluged with visitors. So, it's great. It's diverse. It's not overcrowded to the point where it's uncomfortable. It's a great place to visit. The city is beautiful. It's just wonderful. But man, it's very, very busy at the moment.
And it's U.S. adjacent. If you want American culture without having to go to America, Toronto is a good place to go to get it. You can literally pick up American television. We drove.
Right, it's true. And we drove for an hour south today and went to Niagara Falls, which, if you look on the other side of the water, it's New York State. And I've been to the New York side of Niagara Falls before and not to the Canadian side. Just a fun fact for anybody who is wanting to visit Niagara Falls, see the Canadian side of it, because you actually get to see the whole thing. It's absolutely beautiful. The US side of it, you can get really up close and personal to the waterfalls, but you're on the side where the water's falling in. You don't get the perspective you get to see from the Canadian side of it. But yeah, 1 hour and you're at the borderline. So it's really easy.
Man, it takes me longer than that to reach the border of my state. So
in any direction.
Yeah, me too. But it's funny. It's funny you should say that, because in the last 3 weeks, I've been to Mexico, US, and Canada. I am Mr. NAFTA.
Nice.
I like it.
Now you just need to go to China, and then you can be like Nixon.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on to a little bit of listener feedback. John Mark gets crazy technical. I think there's some good stuff here, but it was over my head. So I'm going to read it and let our super smart audience tell me what he meant. It says, Mark, you said something in the podcast regarding building things with your own hands. I saw a video in which a lady by the name of Jerry Ellsworth built a transistor in her kitchen using silicon, chemicals, and a special oven. She then presented what she had done at maker fairs and won an award. For years, I've been trying to understand how a bipolar junction transistor works. Over the years, I've read a number of descriptions, but they never quite worked for me. But recently, I began to look at the BJT as two separate devices, the emitter and the collector, that are connected by an electric effect. I decided that I could model the emitter as a light-emitting diode, and the collector as a photodiode/solar cell. So in this example, the emitter literally emits light, and the collector literally collects light. The LED shines the light into the photodiode, coupling the two by photoelectric effect. I bought some parts and constructed a transistor, and in the process, I've learned more about transistors and transistor circuits. I've only begun to scratch the surface of what's possible. A homebrew transistor built from off-the-shelf parts is in many ways inferior to factory-made transistors, except in the area of education. Actual BJTs do not work on the photoelectric effect. I think they work on the reverse recovery effect, where the forward current in the emitter causes a reverse current in the collector. When in the common emitter configuration, the BJT works on a fractional gain positive feedback. This is positive feedback where the gain is less than 1. If the gain is greater than 1, then the transistor will saturate and latch on like a silicon-controlled rectifier. But if the gain is less than 1, then the base current controls the collector current. Actually, the gain needs to be more than 0.5 and less than 1. So if a gain is 0.75, then for every milliamp that flows through the emitter, it will cause a 0.75 milliamp flow through the collector. And this will give a common emitter direct current gain, beta, of 3. So yes, building things with your own hands is of great benefit. You earn a lot by trying to build things. You learn what the trade-offs have to be. So Miles, I'm sure you understood every word of that. I got lost in it.
Well, I just want to point out, I saw this episode of Stargate where the Ancient came and built a one-way Stargate with stuff he ordered offline. So, I thought that's what he was doing, was recapping the episode, and I followed along perfectly.
Yeah, I was listening to it. I heard transistor, blah, 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 transistor, blah, 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 blah. I felt like a dog, I'm sorry, but I know one thing. We are reaching our geek audience perfectly. So he is so representative of the demographic we wish to reach to. So that's good news.
Yeah, I probably, of the panel, have the most experience dealing with direct electronics. But yeah, I don't know what a silicon-controlled rectifier is. Nothing.
No, I mean, if you really want to hear, I went to California once. We were driving through San Francisco, and I told my wife that we were about to drive. This is when we first came to America. That we were about to drive into the Silicon Valley, and she thought it was a town full of breast implants.
Well, it kind of is.
Yeah.
Yeah, now it is.
Yeah, she's not wrong about that. All right, so anyway, moving on. Keith says, I talk way too fast. Says, having been a former Minuteman missile launch officer, I enjoyed your banter regarding North Korea and the explanations of 10 megaton versus 1 megaton, more accurate ICBMs. You are correct. I'd also like to point out that in over a year, I've never visited the website for GeekRant. The reason is because it's too hard to understand the actual website from your dialogue. I thought the website was lmnop.com, so it makes it kind of hard to respond when you say it so fast. Perhaps that was the idea as a way to filter out those who shouldn't respond. Thanks, guys, and enjoy your shows. So I'm always very careful at the very beginning of the show to say brought to you by Element Opie Productions, elementopie.com. I thought that's about as clear as I could be, but apparently not. It's Element as in the periodic table of elements, and Opie as in Opie Taylor from the handygriffithshow.com.
Yeah, and we used to say that every so often back in our Everyday Linux days and other podcasts the network used to host. But it has been a long time since we've said anything other than elementopie.com. And if he's somebody like us who plays things faster than the 1x speed.
Good point.
Then yeah, you just hear, and occasionally whenever I'm listening for a technical word or a proper name, I have to slow it down to normal speed to hear, even though I understand everything else that is being said. I can't get that, that technical name because it's like I can't get the specific word enough to search and see what it is. So, maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, so this...
And Keith, my hat's off to you, dude. A real Minuteman launch officer. Oh, wow. I'm not worthy.
I bet that was a tough job, just emotionally difficult. Boredom, for days with the sort of Damocles hanging over your head at the same time. So
I hope I never have to do my job.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the kind of job where your boss gets mad at you if you do your job. So yeah, it's Element OP, and it is a play on LMNOP. That was the joke. I took LMNOP and broke it into Element OP. And the original logo for the website way back when was a periodic table of elements, and instead of oxygen, it had Opie Taylor's face on it. But as we grew, I was a little afraid that MCM Universal might come after me. I don't have to know if that's who does it, but whoever the production company was. So I changed it to the little flying guy that we call Jack. He's a jumping jack. So that's our logo. For no particular reason. I just hired an artist friend of mine and said, make a logo. And she said, what do you want it to be? I said, a logo. And that's where it came from. All right, moving on. Michael reminds us about private browsing. On the July 5th show, someone ranted about ads following him around in his web browser. 2 suggestions. 1, private browsing mode should get rid of cookies and other traces. Both Firefox and Chrome can be started in private mode with an extra parameter. On Windows, it's easily done by making a second desktop icon for the browser that has this parameter. Probably doable on Mac OS too. I'm not a Mac user. 2, both Firefox and Chrome can be configured to always throw away browsing history and cookies. Sort of a permanent private browsing mode with explicitly using private browsing mode. Making exceptions for the few websites you want/need to save data for is not that hard. In Firefox, for example, Tools, Options, Privacy has an options to get rid of both cookies and browsing history when the browser is shut down. The equivalent exists in Chrome. So there you go, Seth. We've talked about this before. I think your rant was mainly that you had to do that, not that you couldn't do it.
Right, and also I talked about wanting to, because if you part of your terms of usage to be Facebook sheeple and Google sheeple and Amazon sheeple for that matter is you give us the right to see anything else you do on the web, and they reference either your computer or your email address or whatever. So if I had one computer I only ever used to check email, and if I had another computer that I only ever used to check when I wanted to check Facebook, and then I had another computer that I only ever used when I wanted to buy stuff from Amazon, and then I had another computer that just when I wanted to search news for the story or whatever like that, then in a way it confounds their data collection, because all he ever does is go to Facebook. And if they were set up as virtual machines, with a different operating system or whatever, then you have, and again, it probably isn't anything. It's just a moral victory saying, haha, I made you work to collate data on me rather than just, shoving it up to you on a silver platter. So that was, I think that is the one you were in reference to. But yeah, and also I like, oh yeah, what was that website? I can start typing it or whatever. So anyway, just, we've talked about it before, and that was what I was talking about the last time we had this conversation.
Yeah, in my experience, Chrome is the real bad boy. When I do a search on Chrome on my phone, I can be guaranteed to see an ad about it on Facebook later in the week. If I do that same search in Firefox on Linux, not so much. So it's almost 100% certain that if I search something on my phone, I will see it on Facebook within a couple weeks. And I don't have the Facebook app installed on my phone. So it's got to be coming from the browser or from Google itself reporting that data.
Right, because you used, you're signed in on that browser with that email, and then you're signed in on the phone with that email with some app, and so that's why.
Yeah, but the thing is, I'll be using Chrome on the phone and Firefox on the laptop and seeing them. So it's not a Chrome to Chrome transfer. It's a Google to Facebook transfer.
Right.
Annoying, but other than that, it doesn't really bother me all that much. I mean, I'm going to see ads anyway. It might as well be ads for sandpaper since I've been shopping at Home Depot recently.
Yeah, I hate the fact that they pretend like, and that's, I don't know. It's just like when I get I'm the person that when I get a robocall, please hold for so-and-so. And then when they pick up, I say, I don't take calls from computers, and I hang up on them. What does that prove? Nothing. That's just like, if I'm so important to talk to, I want to have a person talk to me and not some machine attempting to mimic human interaction.
Well, what you need to do, Seth, is add one line to that. Remove me from all your databases, because under U.S. law, assuming they're U.S.-based, they're required to honor that request.
Yeah, from their database, but then, immediately after that, they sell their remove list to a third party that they then turn around and buy from and get it right back. And while, so you really don't do anything.
They're also allowed to take up to 6 months to remove you. So
right.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to. Well, I'm sorry, Miles. You were going to say?
No, just saying that's very nice.
Yes,
very nice of them.
And there's no reason for that law to be a thing. I mean, it's either tone deaf lawmakers who are like, well, 6 months to do it instead of 6 seconds, or it's heavily paid for lobbyists, lawmakers saying, "Oh, okay, let's make this as mute as possible and give you 6 months." I don't know which it is. My cynicism leads me toward the latter over the former.
Well, what are they going to do? Pay a $1 fine? That's nothing to them.
Right.
And so, that's less than the cost of doing business. They make more packaging my data and selling it to other people than any fine that one, and probably what happened, that one company they made an example of and hit with a big fine, the trade association just paid the company the money to reimburse the fine, so it was handled across the industry, and then all of our prices went up $1 and we didn't know why. So we let the corporations get too big because we don't care enough to do without something, not that we need, but something that we kind of would like to have is more important to us than being in control of our digital lives.
What you said, I can't add to that.
2 thumbs up.
All right, so
sorry,
let's move
this
on.
was going to be a happy show.
Let's move on to the topic, and Seth, you were the one who wanted to talk about this, and I'll let you do it. But I just want to give a synopsis here. This is a blog post essentially on a website called boldfame.com, and I'm almost afraid. I'm a little leery about even talking about this because we're bringing attention to some pretty reputable practices here, but it's worth talking about. So, Bold Fame posted an article about a lawsuit against Audible, and then said, if you don't want to use Audible, here is a site that we like with not less than 3 referral links to their sites. So this is clearly an 4. This is clearly an advertisement masquerading as a blog post, masquerading as news.
Right. And it was of course, this is a perfect example of one type of fake news. There's other type of fake news, but this was presented, and I don't remember if it was a Facebook suggested post or news story or if it was a link. I wish I would have remembered how I got here, but it was presented as a news story of, there's a class action lawsuit against Audible. Well, you go, and this, to be honest, this article mentions the class action lawsuit in passing, but it's talking about an Audible alternative, which, on the face of it, just looking, I was like, oh, that, if I were going to do the Audible thing, I might try this place first because it seems to give you a better deal in one sense, a worse deal in other senses. But that's all it, and so this is a commercial for a company competing with Audible. And then, of course, at the very end has an afterthought. They tack on a document. And honestly, I don't even know if this document is real. It's kind of like an embedded PDF thing, and so it purports to be real, but I didn't even Google fact check it, to see if it was real. I just assume it is. Maybe it is or isn't. I don't know. I should have, if I would have thought ahead rather than just saying, "Hey guys, let's talk about this," I would have researched and said, "Hey, what do you know? This is an actual class action lawsuit." But so I think, it's reprehensible in one sense. Hey, and the company that they're talking about, they might not even know this particular tactic is being used. I would find that hard to believe. But, in one sense, hey, we're competing. We want some PR. How can we do this? Maybe they're even behind the class action. You really don't know these days. But rather than being just an ad or just a blog post, hey, here's these 2, hey, you want to try Audible books? Here's these 2 companies. Audible's the one everybody's heard of. This other one is kind of the new kid on the block doing some neat things. Here's the values that each one offers. There would be nothing wrong with this, but it's masquerading as a legitimate news story when in actuality it is a commercial for the competitor of Audible trying to use Audible's name and the advertising that Amazon has put into Audible for brand awareness to draw people to its site. So in one sense, guerrilla marketing, yay, but in another sense, it's so easy to be lied to on the internet And I'm a perfect example. I've done no verification of the claims they've made. I'm just railing against them for being a deceptive pseudo news site.
There is a class action lawsuit, and it goes back to I can find, it looks like it was actually presented in March of this year, but it was discussed as early as 2013. And so they're calling it unfair practices, a bait and switch, saying that for Audible, you pay $15 or $20 or whatever it is a month for one or two credits. Specifically, they allege the one credit. So you pay for the one credit thing, and Audible often in their early on anyway in their media said one credit equals one book, but that's not true for super long books. Like Stephen King's The Stand, is an example I can come up with off the top of my head. It's maybe 2 credits for one book. And so these people are saying, you promised us a book a month, when really we have to wait 2 months to get this particular book. And then the other thing they talk about is the fact that your credits expire. So, I think you get a year out of them. But anyway, the point is they do expire. So after a certain point, if you've been paying for this for a year and not spent any of your credits, you're paying for credits without actually gaining any credits. And then the third point is that if you stop paying, all of your unspent credits go away. You get to keep the books you've already spent, but all of your unspent credits go away if you stop spending. So those are the 3 points of the class action lawsuit. Frankly, I don't think this would actually stand up in court. I think if it ever goes to court, it's going to be shot down because basically the class action lawsuit says, yeah, we're agreeing to the terms that you said you would do when you signed. Because these are all things that are known to Audible people. And I'll go ahead and say the name. Playster, Playstr, is the company that they're hawking here. And one of the things I wanted to discuss is who's responsible for this. Playster looks like a valuable service. It's sort of a Netflix-like. You don't ever get to keep anything, but as long as it's in their database, you can watch it, read it, view it, listen to it as many times as you want. It's a unified service. It's audiobooks, it's music, it's media, it's movies, it's television, it's the whole thing. So they're more of a Netflix service. You don't ever own the book, no matter what, but you can listen to it as many times as you want, assuming their rights continue. We all know in the Netflix world, rights come and go. I don't know if that's how it is in the book world. But for the same amount, if you're a voracious listener, for $15 a month, you could listen to 4, 6, 8 books for the cost of one book from Audible. So it actually seems like a pretty good deal. And I'm not sure that the service, Playster, is responsible for this. I think this is Bold Fame trying to flog their referral link so that they get some money. And Bold Fame may be completely unaware that it even, Playster may be completely unaware that it even happened.
And it might not even be Bold Fame. It might be a particular author on Bold Fame.
Well, and just reading through the comments, my BS meter goes off on about, there's only 12 comments, and then some of those 12 have responses to them. My BS meter hits the top of the line on about 6 of these 12 comments, meaning either the author or some other shill for the company wrote those comments. So this is spam in a can in every way possible. But I don't want to be quick to blame Playster for this, because this may just be a side effect of them having referral links. Because I've seen some pretty crappy people, doing the same sort of thing for Audible or Amazon in general, flogging things. Great Amazon deals, and you go there and it's not a deal at all. But you click their link and you got their cookie in your browser, and so now they own you until you click another one or clear it. So yes, this is scumbaggery. But I'm not sure it's scumbaggery on the part of Playster. What do you guys think, just on the face of it?
It's a glorified chat spam, as far as I'm concerned, or comment spam. It used to be, somebody would post a blog article and then allow comments below it, and you would see all of these spammers come in there to try to put links into their products or make their name linked to something and say something to try to get some registered Google SEO goodness out of it. Well, that doesn't work anymore because they either the WordPress or the blog services don't allow links or don't register that stuff or robots.txt doesn't contain anything that Google's allowed to index off it. So these guys have kind of gone away and that market disappeared. Well, now the market is to create the entire blog to be that spam. And it's not just this product. It's going to be anything from this product to political articles to fake news to whatever you want. It's out there and it is what it is. My position on it is to recognize it for what it is, and then for us to look at how do you deal with it. And that's when it's going to get all different sort of reactions, I think, because I come from a very free market libertarian attitude, and I'm like, if you read this stuff and you get sucked into it, bad for you, bad luck, suck it up, learn from it. But the nanny state out there would tell you, oh no, we can't allow this and we have to blacklist it and not put it on Google or whatever. Yeah, okay, fine. But everyone's going to have an opinion on it.
Seth?
Yeah, I don't know. From some of the reviews I have seen on Playster, I wouldn't put it past them because, you have some people 5-star, oh, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread. And then others, this is complete and utter crap. It's I don't even recognize half the stuff they're offering. So I could, like I say, I could see quote unquote guerrilla marketing by Playster doing this, because Bold Fame is just simply a kind of it's set itself up to be like a social media news site. But a lot of their like half the articles on their front page have to do with audio books and why they're so great for readers. So I don't know. It could be, I thought about giving it a 30-day trial to see, but based on this article, whether Playster did it or not, I don't plan on doing it because it seems a bit fishy to me.
Yeah, there's a definite scum factor to it.
Yeah.
And if I were Playster, I would be actively trying to shut this crap down because of that. Assuming I was an up and up company, a legitimate company, because nobody wants the scum factor. That's why Amazon has seriously cracked down on discounts or free stuff for reviews, because their image was being tarnished by these bought and paid for reviews. And I think a legitimate company will actively seek to remove that sort of stuff, but I'm not sure that I can't be convinced either way that Playster is a legitimate company.
Yeah, apparently. So if you can trust Wikipedia, and who can't these days?
Well, Playster probably wrote that article.
Right. But it says they have an audio book library that includes like the big 5 publishers. So, they're not just trying to scrape together a bunch of independent crap and bundle it and make a legitimate business. They seem to actually be making deals with legitimate publishing houses. So in one sense, that's a good thing. And, and if they're new, I can see this, but, they also have an affiliate program. So,
So I went through and searched for some of the more common things. Blackstone Audio is a big audio production. They had some books there. They had all the Orson Scott Card media there. I forget the name of that company, but they had all of those books. So they do have some real deals, and I played the audio samples, and they're the same books. Ernest Cline's Ready Player One, as read by Will Wheaton. So it does. I'm sure I could find a book or two a month to listen to there. Right now I'm paying for the 2 books a month from Audible, and most months 2 is enough if I pick a good book, but sometimes I have to go back and buy a couple of others, or sometimes when I read something like Pandora Star, I end up banking credits for a while. So, to me, it's not looking like a screaming deal to me, but I could say $5 a month if I went with them, if they had what I wanted. And if it seems to be the exact same book, and if the delivery of the app and that sort of stuff is the same, then I think it's great. More power to them. Competition is a good thing. But right. Another point I wanted to do, I want to move on a little bit from the scummy ad. The headline here is damaging to Amazon/Audible if nobody ever reads the article, because the headline is Audible accused of scamming its loyal members. there is a significant percentage of the population that will never read past that headline. And in the modern day, accused means convicted. And so
Right.
Audible is now scamming loyal members. That is a fact of a reality because that headline was written and somebody read it. And that is a concern for me, more from a social context. A personal example, a man I knew to be a very good man was recently involved in some very public bad publicity. After all was said and done, investigations done, that sort of thing, he was completely exonerated. That news didn't make as big a splash, but even when it did, I saw articles of responses to the court of law and the investigation and everything saying this man did no wrong. The responses I saw were, well, that's just the system letting the guy off. We all know he really did it. So the fact that he was accused has, I'm not going to say ruined, but has altered this man's life permanently and forever. And that's not new. It's just easier now for, an accusation to spread around the world. People from all over the world were commenting on what happened in this little Texas town. And that reputation is now global, even though the activity was completely fictitious. That doesn't matter. Accused equals convicted, and apparently will be for now and forevermore.
Yeah, I mean, because even if you produced a videotape that was shot 5 minutes before the announcement that says, "Hey, look, I'm going to ruin President Trump's life by saying he had a homosexual affair with Will Wheaton," or something like that. And then
that would do more damage to Will Wheaton.
Well,
yeah, I was going to say that's
whichever
Will
one
going to go down on that one.
But yeah, but whichever one it would do damage to, if you played the announcement immediately followed by that, people wouldn't care because he would be guilty because somebody had the audacity to say it, whether it was true or not. And even if it was released as a prank, there would be, you couldn't, because he said, hey, watch this prank I'm about to do. And then if he makes it part of the same video, he hasn't done anything. You can't fault him for libel because he said he's doing a joke. And he even, says before but it doesn't matter. The accusation's been made, therefore it's true. And, so I think it's social, look, I understand victims need protection. That's what the law is for. But, merely accusing doesn't make you a victim. Just because somebody made the accusation doesn't mean that person's guilty. And people don't want to think because we're not taught to think anymore. This goes back to if argument and debate and rhetoric were taught at, a middle school, a high school, and a collegiate level, crap like this wouldn't matter because people would know the difference. But instead, we're too busy taking tests on how stuff makes us feel to actually learn anything in school. And, and then besides, that cuts into your Facebook time. And where else are you going to learn how Audible scams its loyal members if you can't get it off of fake news stories like this?
Seth, I salute you, dude. You said it perfectly. You're right. There's no such thing as critical thinking in this world anymore. It's consumption and overconsumption, and nobody has a filter on anything, and they believe everything they read, and it's crazy. I remember the day, I'm sure you guys do, we used to go to the supermarket checkout, and along the sides were all the, the magazines and the print media, and you'd see like News of the World, and they'd have some space alien baby born from, I don't know who it was at the time, LaToya Jackson, I don't know. But it was nuts, right? And you'd look at it and go, what a joke, haha. People believed that stuff.
Right.
And then those people were the loons. They were the crazy people out there who believed it. That's fine. But then somehow, over the course of the years, News of the World became legitimate media. And how this ever happened is beyond me. But now they've become the real media and the real old school newspapers with journalists and editors and cross-checking facts and all of the things that they're used to, with lawsuits of liability if they get it wrong and all that sort of thing. They kind of got boring and they went around the wayside because they weren't entertainment. But now we're just this like addicted mob of suckers that just get thrown all this stuff on here, and we're like, oh, thank you very much, more please. And the reality is we don't critically think anything out, and that's our problem. Now, your opinion on something might differ from somebody else. That's fine. It's America. We're allowed to do that. It's our DNA. We're allowed to have conflicting discussions, and it's wonderful because that's how good things happen. But
it used to be allowed to do that. Think.
Yeah, you're right. We used to be. Now we upset each other if we take a different opinion than somebody else, and c'est la vie.
Well, Miles, I think what's different between what you discussed in, the National Enquirer versus boldfame.com is the National Enquirer was pretty indiscriminate about who they accused of what. The modern blogosphere is very careful to craft the right story. If you accuse a poor black teenager of theft, that accusation is immediately true. If you accuse a rich white Republican of theft, that is immediately true. If you accuse a priest of child molestation, that is immediately true. But the same isn't always true. If you accuse a liberal gay rights activist of embezzlement, well, we need to research that story. We need to look into that. So these things are predisposed to, or tapping into the things that we're predisposed to already think. And Audible, giant company, scamming loyal customers, you read that and, well, yeah, of course that's true. Yeah, it's the man trying to keep us down. That headline is carefully crafted to make you believe it. And so I think that's the difference between the National Enquirer, LaToya Jackson having an alien baby, versus anything that might come out today. Trump let the Russians steal the elections. Both may have the same amount of truth in them, but one is immediately accepted and the other is immediately rejected.
Your defense would be, that's the National Enquirer. And people go, oh, crap, I didn't even think about that. But now it's like, but look at this website. And you go to this website, and now Bold Fame really doesn't. But, there's the right wing, far right wing, gay people are putting hormones in cereals to turn our kids gay. And then, you have the far left wing scientists are seeking to, lobotomize homosexuals. And you can go to those websites and they look good. And now some of them obviously look like a kit somebody found from the 1990s, but others of them, they look good, they look professional, and they look polished. And just looking at the website, you can't tell if it's legitimate or if it's fake. The internet has brought information to the masses, but it didn't bring filters to the masses. And if there's one thing the masses have proved, is that we don't deserve all the tools we have today.
Well, there's been a history. Goes back thousands of years. We've always had gypsies. We've had people who scam. We've had the trickster on Las Vegas Boulevard with his 3-card Monte, trick. And we've had the gypsies in Rome who will rob you blind if you turn your back and they, pickpocket you. We've had, this is part of our history. We've learned, after people have been routinely victimized by these things, to eventually work out that person's wrong. But what happens with the gypsies, as soon as they get found out, they go run away, and then reappear somewhere else in a different guise with a different shtick, and at some point they just do it all over again. Well, this is on acid now on digital world, because you can reappear. That blog site, whoever put that thing together, it's done its damage. But they've probably gone on and done 5 others whether it be against Nike, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, Ford, who knows. They've all probably had their attack ads in the same way, and these guys will just go back and crawl back into the woodwork and then pop out in a different place again. We, the viewer, have to take on some sort of personal responsibility here and say, well, who's the sucker? It's us. We have to have critical thinking. We have to look at everything and realize maybe we can't trust everything we read on the internet. It used to be a joke, but it's real. You know, I saw it on the internet, so it must be true. Give me a break. Of course it's not, until it is proven so.
Well, I think one of the reasons we used to, as a society, accept things in print is because it took effort and expense to print something. So it wasn't financially worthwhile to print a lie, to print something that was going to be immediately dismissed. It took effort. Now it takes no effort to publish something. And so we've carried those 19th century understandings of what it means to publish into a 21st century world of instant, immediate, and accidental even publishing. And so the lizard brain is not developing at the rate of technology.
Therefore, one would assume, I'm going to go one step further with that. I think you're right. If that's the case, I think that what we're going to find is that legitimate media is going to start to implement paywalls, because it's the only way they can guarantee that their content on their website goes in without any sort of artificial or versional, you know, that sort of thing. Case in point, we were traveling from Rome to Florence on train, and we're told if you buy a $50 railway ticket, it's a safe trip. You won't have any issue with any gypsies pickpocketing you, stealing your luggage, whatever. Why? Because they can't afford $50 to get on the train, and so therefore you're safe. You paid your money. You, in fact, by inference, you bought security. Thing is that when you get off that train and you go and get on a regular everyday metro rail trip, we did a small trip to Pisa, which we could only get to on a regular train, which costs, I don't know, $5, something like that. It's really cheap. Oh man, did I see gypsy after gypsy trying to steal luggage, trying to rip everybody off, trying to, you know, pickpocket, the whole bit. I mean, I was on full-on guard alert for that little train trip. Why? Because the barrier to entry was so low. If we raise the barrier to entry for these guys, which is really hard to do on the whole freedom of speech internet thing, but if you raise the barrier to entry, you filter out all the bad stuff, because they can't afford to spam if there's a cost to spam.
Wow, that's two principles coming to a head-on collision there, isn't it?
But electrons want to be free. I know, because someone asked them, and that's what they said.
So, you know, we've been had a regular theme throughout the 5-year run of this show, 5 years, about the importance of personal responsibility, and I hadn't really. Miles, you codified that in a way that we never really had before. With personal responsibility comes personal cost. And until you're willing to pay the price, you'll never reap the benefits of a society of full of personal responsibility, because there is a cost involved.
Yeah, just in the same way that if you move into a nice neighborhood and it's got an expensive property taxes or HOA or whatever, typically the crime rate's lower. Mm-hmm. You move into the cheaper neighborhood where there isn't those sort of costs, and the crime rate is out of control because they can't afford the police force. They can't afford the security in those areas. So the criminals just go to town, and that's what you're paying for. You're not just paying for a nice house and, you know, good lawns and all of that. You're paying for, by implication, a better secured lifestyle.
But no, you're not talking about personal responsibility and paying for what you value. You're talking about white privilege, Miles. You just need to come out and say it. What you said has nothing to do with personal responsibility, and it's about white privilege and trying to keep everybody else out so you can maintain your island of perfection in the midst of the decaying of Western civilization. How dare you, and your elite thinking is not something that a civilized, rational society, and I can prove we're civilized and rational, just look at Facebook, demands and deserves in a 21st century America.
Your satire was oh so crisp and salty there, Seth, but it was also entirely true.
Well, no,
go ahead, Miles.
You go to the island of Barbados. It's exactly the same rule. The rich areas are not crime-free, but they're certainly dissolved of crime to some degree. And the same would be true in China. The same would be true in Russia. The same would be true in Scotland. It's everywhere. It's not about an individual race or anything. It's about simple money.
It's privilege, not necessarily white privilege.
Exactly.
But it's not privilege. I mean, and that's the thing. The left and those evil people, they try to define it as privilege, but it's I choose to spend my money on safety rather than spend my money on 80-inch rims and 120-inch flat screen walls and iPhone 7s every 2 months. I choose to spend my money on security. And that doesn't make it privilege. That makes it different values. The thing I value isn't the bling. The thing I value is the safety that my family can sleep in at night. So, I mean, that's just, if one wanted to go that way and make that argument against the whole privilege debate, someone might be able to get a couple of sentences out before they were laughed out of modern society, because you're not allowed to think that, because that's not what we've been told to think.
Well, the old saw goes, you get what you pay for. And we all know that to some degree it's true and to some degree it's not, but it's true more often than it isn't. And the same is true for the axiom that you have what you earn.
Right.
And you have earned that privilege by working, or by scamming or whatever it is. But at some point along the way, Paris Hilton's ancestors worked their butts off so that she could be a spoiled rich brat. And that's the privilege she enjoys off of the back of the work of her ancestors. And this is the way the world is. It's not American culture. It's humanity. It's probably when we find other planets with intelligent life, we'll find the exact same thing there. You get what you work for, and work the accumulation of things that you get from what you work carries with it a certain amount of privilege. So if you want white privilege or whatever, obviously a black man can't have white privilege, but if you want privilege, you work. And true, some people have to work harder for it. I was what you call an underprivileged youth. And I used to chafe at that term. Underprivileged by definition is normal. Those who are privileged are abnormal. Everybody else is underprivileged and therefore normal. So I had to work harder than most. I was not handicapped. I just had to work harder. I had a longer road to hoe than other people. And that's okay. Some people, not everybody starts at the same point, but we all have the same ability to rise to the same height. And that's what's unique. That's a strong word, but I'm going with it. That's what's unique in human history about the American culture, is that all people can rise to the same height. It's just a matter of how willing you are to work for it.
And beyond it.
Here's the thing. You really get what you pay for, but the thing that nobody wants, everybody thinks payment equals money. But what are you paying for? I'm paying for the bombardment of crap because I want to be able to post on Facebook that I went to Whataburger at midnight and ordered breakfast, and I arranged it on the tray to look like a face. So what do I pay for that? These fake news stories and ads masquerading. So, I have to walk in an extra level of discernment because I don't want to have to pay $2 when I log into Facebook and trust Facebook to keep out all the crap. I want to wade through it because, I'm narcissistic and want to pretend like the world is looking at me. So, I pay for my narcissism with this cacophony of crap that assaults every sense that I have in today's society.
I just changed the show title. Cacophony of Crap is the show title for this show. I have to look up how to spell cacophony, but that was amazing.
And if you wanted to start a new podcast, I would want to start a new podcast and I would want to call it The Glue Factory. I think that would be awesome.
There is historical precedent for what you're talking about. If you remember pre-internet, when we used to have those dial-up BBSs, bulletin board services, and there were the big ones like CompuServe and Prodigy and eventually AOL, and you had to pay I don't know, $7.95 a month or $10 a month or something, and your modem could go and dial into the BBSs back then. Yeah. But the thing is, though, they were a pay-for service. So when you got on there, whatever was being promoted or talked about in forums or whatever, there were always moderators. They would always look at something and they would say, you can't say that and get rid of it. Or, you know, and you paid for that service in the same way that you pay a butler or somebody to look after you, or if you're wealthy enough to do that. What we did was we said we don't want to have a pay-for model for access on the internet. We want the world to be able to get to it no matter who you are, where you are. You can just get on the internet, no cost, right? Well, there's a cost to that. It's called junk because junk gets thrown on there that we might not want. And I think maybe as we start realizing the efficacy of advertising is sort of diminishing, and maybe that the value of Facebook might be some sort of perceived value based on the number of sign-ups and not really what it's doing. I think at some point we're going to return back to a model which says maybe I want to pay for a certain type of media I feel that I can rely on, and I want to upvote its content with money. There are services coming out in the cryptocurrency community that do exactly that. They want to use microtransactional payments to try to raise the quality of articles up, because people are willing to put, a Satoshi as a vote of confidence against an article to push it up, and that way guarantee this it's not going to get spammed out. Maybe this will become the norm. I don't know.
I'm trying to think of a simple one-line sentence that encapsulates all of that. Something like "pay for what you like." Maybe that would work.
Yeah, we could use that.
Well, this is a good time for me to tell you how you can pay us. If you like this content and if you feel we've earned it, if you feel the work we've put in is worth it, go to patreon.com, patreon.com/elementop, elementop, or elementop.com/Patreon. Either of those will work. It's a reverse sort of thing. And you can kick us $1. I used to say anything, but now the minimum pledge is $1. You can kick us $1 or $100, whatever you want. And every time this show comes out, you will automatically be contributing to the hard work that we do here. And it's more work than we make it seem, honestly. And I hope that you feel that the service we provide is of value. So this is my little plug there to, if you believe that we are valuable to you, go to elementop.com/Patreon and check it out. I'm just going to open the kimono a little bit. Last month I made $64 for the month of this show. That was the total income from all sources for this show, $64. Now that's enough to keep the lights going. It keeps the servers up and that sort of stuff. But I'm sure not making anything off of this. And Miles and Seth, there's not enough left over to kick them back anything at all for being on the show. I would love to be able to reward the work that they put in, but I rely on you to do it. And as Miles said, advertising just is failing as a support mechanism for the masses. When you get up in the top 5% or 1% of podcasts, you can support yourself on advertising. But when you're just swimming in the middle like we are, you're just not going to happen. So it's up to you. If you want this show to thrive, the only way you can do that is to pay for what you like. I hate doing these kind of commercials, but it is the state of the world.
Well, I mean, and like I say, that is countercultural from I'm entitled to free internet because I live in the 21st century. I mean, that's the argument. Because I'm alive now, I'm entitled to free internet. I'm entitled to free stuff to access the internet. I am entitled for not only free stuff to access the internet, I'm entitled to high quality, bling worthy, same stuff, the people who make all the money, because they're no better than me. I should have the exact same stuff that Jay-Z has, because he's a man and I'm a man, therefore we're equal. He shouldn't be rewarded for the work he's done. I should be rewarded for the work he's done, because we're both people living today. We deserve the same stuff. And there's a word for that, and it's crap. It's in our show title this week. So, but yeah, so, public service announcements, and, yes, that was a plea for money, but honestly, it's a serve the public good. Pay for what you like. Quit giving credence to all the stuff that's out there. And, in a sense, look at all of the advertising that Playster got off of us. Hopefully we morphed it into something that can contribute to society and not just a free plug for them.
If in fact they didn't do bad things and create the blog, and we don't know, so it's all alleged, and we don't know. But you, the listener, put on critical thinking and work it out for yourself, and don't take exactly what you hear from us as granted. You work it out yourself.
So just during the course of the show, I've been clicking around the Bald Fame website. I have not found an article that was not an advertisement for Playster. So whether Playster is aware that this is a thing or not, it is unquestionably a honeypot for advertising for this service. All right. Now, having said that, I'll skip over the 10 great news stories that Seth brought for us and jump straight to Seth. What happened this week in history?
All right, Mark. Well, in July the 13th, 1992, IBM, Toshiba, and Siemens Alliance get together to develop memory chips. IBM announced an alliance with Toshiba and Siemens to develop memory chips for computers. The international cooperation marked a shift in the semiconductor industry, which had primarily seen such companies fighting bitterly with each other for control of the market. Experts pointed to the alliance as an example of a new global economy that had little use for borders. So that happened this week in history, Mark. And before I turn it back over to you, I want to remind the listeners our age and older, but point out to the younger listeners, there was a day that not all memory worked in all computers, and it still doesn't today, but it's much widely accepted. And, you couldn't just get a network card because network wasn't a standard build on the motherboard. You had to find a model that worked and then get drivers that worked with here and change slots. We talked about that before, but cross-company alliances like this in the early 90s paved the way for the explosion of the web in the late 90s and beyond. If IBM stuck making their specs and Toshiba stuck making their specs, then you would have, computers wouldn't be the commodities they are today. They would be pricey hunks, and, the IBMs wouldn't work the same way that Toshibas were, and stuff like that. Stuff like this story that we take for granted today marks a huge shift that makes the way for the internet to become accessible to the masses. And so all that happened this week in 1992, Mark, and now back to you.
It's very difficult to look through history and find an example where large mega companies working together was a bad thing. It's out there, but it's definitely the small minority. And so when you got three giants, and these were giants, when they got together and said, all computer memory will look like this from now on, that built a foundation on which the modern world is laid. Absolutely. No small thing. And just, 1992, 25 years ago, 35 years ago, 25. Yeah. That was not a terribly long time ago. And the world changed 25 years ago.
Yeah. And, it's 20. I was out of high school 25 years ago. In one sense, golly, that's ancient history. But in another sense, think about 25 years. If you go back from 92 to, what would that be, 68, 67, what was the difference? There was a little difference, but less of a change in that 25 years than in this 25 years.
Indeed. And now, Seth, I'm almost afraid to ask, but what do you have to lower my productivity this week, thus making you look like a better hiring option? Would you get a job already so I can stop asking this question?
This is called Cactus Blue Motel, and this is just a It's kind of a stupid game. You can play the new game, and so you are a person, and you're like, what action do you want to take? So you click. It's almost like if you remember those old books, like the Zork novels were probably the most famous. Pick your own adventure. Do you want to fight the orc or do you want to run away? This is, do you want to do A or B? And go through this text-based game, and and show your boss all the cool stuff you find online. They will love this. Cactus Blue. The link will be in the show notes. Cactus Blue Motel. So it's not great. This isn't Rent a Midget or Build a Backyard Amusement Park. But, if they were all that way, you wouldn't recognize those for the awesomeness they are when we come across them. And not Fill the Oceans, but Cactus Blue Motel.
The site does have some content warnings. It says game includes some cursing and discussions of existential ennui. So just be aware that's a thing. Yeah. Average game plays about 40 to 60 minutes to play through. So if you got an hour to spend and you remember Zork fondly, check out Cactus Blue Motel.
Sounds like fun. I'm going to try this. This sounds like fun.
All right. Speaking of an hour to kill, Miles' wife has been down in the hotel lobby patiently drinking highballs the whole time we've been doing this. We need to let her return from exile. So I will wrap up the show by reminding you how you can contact us. Go to elementop.com and click on the Contact Us button at the top of the page. Answer the world's hardest CAPTCHA. Fill out the form there, and that will send an email that gets priority in my inbox. And you can be like those who spoke to us today. Or if you want to go one step up, have your actual voice actually in the actual show for actual real, you can dial 559-IAM-OP and leave us a Google Voice message, and we'll play it. Unless it's just obscene or really low quality, we'll play it on the show and hear what you have to say in your own words. We appreciate your feedback. We appreciate your money even more. Patreon.com/elementop is a way that you can do that. So thank you for hanging out with us. Miles, you're a trooper. You brought a podcast rig to another country for us. My hat is off to you.
No problem. I'll be doing it again next week, too, from another undisclosed location.
Okay. Just let me know when I need to put up the black bars and the voice modification.
No, this will be fun. Hey, Seth, are you podcasting remotely next week, too?
Yes. That's my goal.
Oh,
so
there'll be two of us doing it. This is cool.
We need to one time have all three of us doing a remote location, just because we've never done that before.
Yeah, we'll go to Mark's place.
Well, but then Mark would have to go somewhere else because we all need to be at our not normal location.
Yeah, that's it. So Seth, you come here and run the show, and then I'll go across the street from my neighbor's house and podcast from there. All right, guys. My pleasure, as always, to hang out with you, listening audience. Thank you for being with us, and we'll see you next week because that's it for this show. And remember, pay for what you like.
Toodaloo.
Bye-bye. Hey.
All right, Miles. So do a quick render and just make sure the sound is good, and then we'll let you go back to your vacationing. I'll
do it tonight or early in the morning or something, and it'll be fine. So,
are you on? Are you on Eastern time right now?
I am indeed. I know what it feels like to do a podcast at 7:30 at night.
It's kind of nice. You get the day ahead, put into bed, and then you go on. Yeah.
I'm kind of digging it. Maybe I'll move to Europe or something.
Are you going to be in the Eastern time zone next week?
Yep, I am going to be in Cape Cod, Massachusetts for the next one.
Oh, you two will be right beside next door neighbors, pretty much.
Yeah, we'll all be in the Eastern time zone. So,
yeah, that's cool.
That might be a first. I don't know that the show has ever had everybody in the same time zone before.
I think you're right.
I'll say not when it was full. Not when all the hosts were present. So,
cool.
Yeah,
very cool.
I've been getting a steady echo from somebody. I don't know who it is, and I hope it doesn't come on the recording. Otherwise, that's going to be a nightmare to clean up. But one of you has been sending the whole sound signal back to me. We'll see.
I hope I didn't get this wrong. Yeah, I'll clean up the audio and send over the file. Hopefully, that's enough.
Well, as long as it's not on your recording, it's fine. Because it's not on mine.
I checked it. I checked it before and it seemed okay on my end. So we'll see.
I'm hearing it, but I'm not recording it. Is what I'm saying.
Cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we didn't do the 8 o'clock mystery sound this week.
No. Because we just barely missed it. So
Yep.
we better say goodbye now. See you guys. Thanks, Jinda, for being in the chat room, and we'll see you later.